In Palestine, the Gaza Health Ministry confirmed the death of 16 children from malnutrition and dehydration in the Kamal Adwan hospital. In Russia, authorities summoned the German ambassador in the context of the scandal unleashed by the leak of a conversation between German and Ukrainian military personnel. In Argentina, journalists who work for the National News Agency Telam protest outside its headquarters after Milei's government announced its closure, blockading the building and shutting down the website overnight. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, the Gaza Health Ministry has confirmed the death of 16 children from malnutrition and dehydration in the Kamal Adwan hospital in the north of the Strip, completely besieged by Israeli genocidal troops. The report comes as Tel Aviv tightens a crippling blockade on the area, according to local health officials. The hospital's medical directors are also warning about the possibility of more death due to this cause. Additionally, the lives of many patients are threatened by the lack of energy, since the Zionist government, supported by the United States, has also prevented the entry of fuel for the electric plants. Israel has blockaded since January 23rd the entry of food, medicine and fuel to the north of the enclave. The few convoys that enter the area are brutally attacked. In the Gaza Strip, the attacks of the Israeli occupation army continues against innocent civilian population. The details of the latest bombing upon a residential area are brought to us by our correspondent in the area, Huda Hegazi.
I am standing here in front of one of the houses that was bombed yesterday by the troops of the Israeli occupation army, here in the governorate of Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, specifically in the area of Hebet al-Adas in the center of this governorate. As we can see, this house, which has bombed approximately 8 p.m. yesterday by the occupation army, caused the death of 13 Gazans up to this moment. However, according to the member of this family, there are still 3 people under the rubble, and as we can see, the neighbors and the different members of the family are trying to find these 3 people who are still missing. As we can see, they are trying to enter the interior of the destroyed house, despite the fact that it is quite dangerous, something quite complicated. But they have assured that they want to know where the bodies of these 3 missing people are. As we can see on our screens, the house has been totally destroyed. This house was made up of 4 floors, and as we can see, it has been totally devastated by the missile that was launched at it. As I say before, 13 people from this family have died due to these bombings, and it has been assured that it has been a very aggressive and brutal bombing that has completely demolished this house and has left it completely destroyed, as we can see on the other side. There are also several Gazans who are also trying to look for these 3 people who are still missing under this house. They are trying to cut the stones, they are trying to remove the sand to find these people, although it has been assured that it's been quite complicated. Since last night, when the bombing of the house and the family members took place, various neighbors have been trying to look for them. But even though they have ascertained that there is no face of them here, it seems that they're trying to dig in order to get inside the house, even though, as I say before, it is quite dangerous and could cause injury to these Gazans in the event that the house falls on the top of them again. However, it has been assured that the fire department, the medical teams do not have the resources to continue the search, and there are other houses here that have been bombed and they have to go to those places, and therefore the members of this family and the neighbors have decided to stay and continue the search for these 3 missing people. And as we are seeing, this is what the Gazans are exposed to on a daily basis in this area. That was supposedly a safe zone, seen as eyewitnesses have stated. In this house, there were also displaced Gazans evacuated from different areas of the Gaza Strip, who had come to this place believing that it was a safe zone according to the allegations of the Israeli occupation army. But as we are seeing, there is no safe zone here in the Gaza Strip, and houses are being bombed over the heads of their inhabitants at the very moment when civilians are inside them, innocent people who are not to blame for anything.
On Sunday, Israeli occupation troops shelled Rafah, killing at least 16 Palestinians. Two of the victims were twin babies of the Abu Ansa family. The baby's mother, Rania Abu, said that the attack occurred after she had been breastfeeding her children when a shell fired by Israeli forces hit the house, killing her children, her husband, and 11 other people, including family and friends. In addition to the dead and wounded, the attack left several buried under the rubble.
Four families lived in the house. When the bombing occurred, a group of people left the house, and a group of people are still under the rubble. Also, 3 people from the neighboring house were martyred. My cousin, his wife, his daughter, and his son were martyred because of the concrete that came down on them. The house, as you can see, was destroyed totally. There was nothing left of it.
The United Nations General Assembly will meet again on Monday to address the U.S. veto of a ceasefire in Gaza as humanitarian conditions point to catastrophe. The forum will again be tasked with addressing the situation in the besieged Strip and will insist on a cessation of hostilities, a demand that seems impossible within the Council after 3 previous vetoes by the northern nation. The director of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, will attend the meeting. His participation follows after Israel accused the agency of collaborating with Hamas and presented alleged evidence of the participation of 12 of its members in terrorist attacks in October. On February 20th, the United States vetoed the 3rd draft resolution presented for the cessation of the conflict, despite the fact that the proposal received 13 votes in favor and the sole abstention of the United Kingdom. The Arab League called for urgent aid to be sent to Gaza and condemned those attempting to block this support. Secretary General Ahmed Abul Gheit said that the organization's headquarters had that the blocking of aid was passing a death sentence on the Palestinian people and was a form of collective punishment. Abul Gheit made the comments during a meeting with Sigrid Kaag, the United Nations Under-Secretary General and Senior Coordinator for Humanitarian Affairs and Reconstruction in Gaza. Hamal Rushdie, spokesperson for the Secretary General, said there was a dire humanitarian situation in Gaza and that Israel was responsible for blocking much-needed aid. Abul Gheit and Kaag called for an immediate ceasefire for the return of the Palestinian authorities to Gaza to support reconstruction efforts and coordination by the international community to deliver aid.
It is urgent and there is no time to wait. The international community is obligated to deal with the famine that has started, to ravage elders and children, as well as the lack of water and medicine that warns of the spread of epidemics amongst the Palestinian people, in order to save as much souls as we can and to reduce the pain of hunger, thirst, and eliminate the risk of death of people who are suffering from cold, rain, siege, and bullets with no solutions for them to survive or protect their families.
In Lebanon, the Deputy Secretary General of the Resistance, Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, denounced the United States as responsible for the Israeli siege in the Gaza Strip. Through the International Union of Resistance, ULEMA, the deputy chief rejected Washington's objectives on the control and reshaping of the Palestinian territory. The Hezbollah leader emphasized that if it were not for the support of the White House, the Israeli government could not continue the aggression in Gaza. After almost 5 months of crimes, the Hezbollah leader pointed out to Israel's inability to eliminate the resistance and the U.S. plans to calm the atmosphere and maintain the hunger blockade to achieve its goals. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Russia, in the context of the scandal unleashed by the leak of a conversation between German and Ukrainian military personnel, the ambassador of Berlin in Moscow, Alexander Graf, was summoned. The Russian Foreign Ministry will discuss with the German diplomat the recording confirmed as authentic. In this audio, the German Air Force officers discuss a possible bombing of the Eastern Bridge in reference to the repeatedly hit Crimean Bridge in the middle of the conflict. The maneuver would be carried out with Taurus missiles, which would also be supplied to Kyiv. They also admit that they have been involved with Ukraine for a long time, in addition to other statements that could be considered a declaration of war. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz promised that the leak of such sensitive information will be investigated thoroughly, intensively, and quickly.
As we now understand, they have not been fully denazified, and this is becoming more and more obvious these days. The most terrifying thing that this will lead to is a fact, and you can prove it, if nothing is done, if this process is not stopped by the German people, it will lead to dire consequences first and foremost for Germany itself.
The German parliament held an emergency session to debate the scandal over leaked audios on the planning of an attack on Russia's Crimean Bridge. Deputy Torsten Frey pointed out that a special meeting of the Defense Committee was necessary as there is an urgent need for parliamentary clarification. At the same time, he considered it necessary that the meeting be attended by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The audios unveiled by a Russian news agency revealed the German armed forces' plot to attack the Crimean Bridge with missiles, as well as the possibility of supplying Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated at a youth forum on Monday that Russia has evidence of how European Union embassies in Moscow are preparing for the upcoming presidential elections beyond what they are allowed to get involved in.
We have accumulated a lot of material about how the European Union embassies in Moscow are preparing for our presidential elections, when interference mechanisms are being prepared, the creation of some kind of supporting projects for our non-systematic opposition operating outside the official political establishment. In general, things that embassies do not have the right to engage in.
In this context, in Russia, Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko qualified as demonstrable and provocative the NATO Nordic response exercise that are set to take place across Finland, Sweden and Norway. Russia is closely monitoring the NATO exercises that began near its border on Monday, as it was stated by the Deputy Foreign Minister. According to Grushko, such exercises, especially in the geographical proximity of the line of contact, increases the risk of military incidents. In this regard, he indicated that all necessary measures have been taken to ensure Russia's defensive capability. The NATO exercises, called Nordic Response 2024, involve more than 20,000 soldiers from 13 countries, more than 100 combat aircraft, transport aircraft, maritime surveillance aircraft and helicopters will participate, as well as more than 50 submarines, frigates, corvettes, aircraft carriers and various amphibious ships. On Sunday, several OPEC Plus member countries announced their decision to extend voluntary cuts to support the stability of the oil markets. The measure, to be implemented in the second quarter of 2024, will cut production by 2.2 million barrels per day. These reductions have been calculated based on the level of production required for this year at the 35th ministerial meetings of the OPEC Plus held last June. The additional voluntary cuts have been announced by Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Algeria and Oman. Russia will also join the voluntary cuts with 471,000 barrels per day. On Monday in Switzerland, Volker Turk, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, called on the international community to recognize the rights of LGBTQ+ people, while reiterating the United Nations call for the right of all to live free and of violence and discrimination.
Recognizing the rights of LGBTQ+ people goes to the meaning of equality and the right of everyone to live free from violence and discrimination. In that light, I commend important steps towards full recognition of the rights of LGBTQ+ people in Greece and the decriminalization of consensual same-sex relations in Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Mauritius, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Singapore in the past 2 years.
The United States Supreme Court on Monday rejected a ruling by the state of Colorado that excludes presidential candidate Donald Trump from the primaries election. The United States Supreme Court declared unconstitutional the expulsion of former President Donald Trump from the Republican primaries in Colorado, a ruling that paves the way for him to be elected as his party's presidential candidate. The decision of the highest court was announced on the eve of Super Tuesday, a key date on the road to the White House, and experts say it could also affect similar complaints filed by the states of Maine and Illinois. The justices of the Supreme Court, where conservatives hold a majority, argued that according to the Constitution, it is responsibility of Congress and not the state to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was used by the Colorado Supreme Court to rule against Trump. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Argentina, journalists have gathered at the headquarters of the State News Agency Telam to protest its overnight closure. Only 3 days after President Javier Milei announced the closure of the news agency, the staff found the building fenced off and the website disabled. Moreover, all the workers were relieved of their duties for a period of 7 days. In this context, journalist organizations gathered in front of the agency's office in Buenos Aires for a solidarity hug to resist the measure, which they deem unconstitutional as it bypassed the Congress. Telam has over 700 workers and is a key provider of national news both to local and international news outlets. Demonstrators have denounced the government act as an attack on the press and its freedom of speech. Since last night, members of the International Commission of Telam, the General Secretary of the Press Union of Buenos Aires and the General Secretary of the Argentine Federation of Press Workers remain inside the headquarters of Bolívar 531. In a tweet made by the journalist of the agency, Andrea Vulcano, the front of the building can be seen being guarded by armed police force. In the tweet, she stated that public media is a necessary voice, continued by the hashtags Telam is not closing and Telam is defending itself. In Argentina, several teachers' guilds that are part of the workers' union will carry out a national strike this Monday due to the lack of proposals to adjust salaries by the government of Javier Milei. The Argentine Teachers Union, the Association of Technical Education Teachers, the Confederation of Argentine Educators, the Argentine Union of Private Teachers denounced the elimination of the National Teachers Incentive Fund and the Salary Compensation Fund, as well as the cuts in infrastructure, pedagogical programs, financing and resources to the provinces. Hundreds of thousands of teachers are below the poverty line, the unions emphasize in a statement in which they add that they will not be able to pay for household services, transportation to work or food. In Mexico, Alfredo González, a candidate for the municipal presidency of the Labour Party, was murdered amid the wave of violence affecting the electoral campaign. According to the Attorney General's office of the state of Guerrero, the homicide occurred on Sunday afternoon while González was driving his vehicle on Juan Álvarez Boulevard, where the aggressors shot him repeatedly, causing him to lose control and overturn. After confirming the murder, the state prosecutor's office indicated that the agents of the Ministerial Investigative Police and personnel from the forensic services went to the scene to carry out the corresponding investigation. The authorities collected the necessary evidence at the scene of the crime. In addition to this event, there have been other violent actions against public figures in Guerrero. In Haiti, government authorities declared a state of emergency and a curfew amid rising violence by paramilitary groups. The entire western part of the nation has been declared in a state of emergency after several days of violence. An assault on the national penitentiary aggravates the extreme situation in the Caribbean nation. More than 3,500 prisoners were released by paramilitary groups in a bloody attack that left at least 12 dead and numerous wounded. Several governments have instructed their nationals to leave the country, but there is much uncertainty about airport security. Among the few prisoners who remain in the penitentiary, there are several wounded. The Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs also advised its nationals not to travel to Haiti due to the extremely violent situation that has worsened in the last few hours. The Foreign Ministry informed Mexican citizens who need to leave Haiti to be alert to official airline announcement and local news about the cancellation of flights. They also recommended to stash water, food, fuel, and other necessities. Likewise, the United States Embassy in the Haitian capital has also asked American citizens in the country to leave the territory. The diplomatic headquarters indicated that its nationals should use commercial transport or other private transport options when security conditions allow so. The embassy has canceled scheduled appointments at the office and issued an alert for those intending to travel to Haiti due to the effects of the violence, especially aggravated in recent hours, which has collapsed key services such as communications and transport. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.